Look like it's on. Are we?
We're live. It's on now.
Okay.
We're
doing all that rambling.
All that rambling we're trying not to do. Hold on, let me adjust my mic and we'll get started. All right. Good morning, everybody. Oops, gotta pause the video. Nicole's back.
Back again.
It really sucked without you last week.
Aw, I missed you
terrible.
too.
Yeah, it was. We got through it somehow, but it's good to have you back. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. It's Friday Live. Let's talk about some stuff and some things. As always, you can catch us on Facebook, and you can also catch us on YouTube, and we'll be looking at the YouTube chat room for commentary and things.
If I can find it. I don't know how to find this stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
We
don't
can
worry
go
about me.
youtube.com/thewoodwhisperer/live.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
That is what I will do.
Okay, so if you have questions, you could put them into the YouTube chat. Nicole will relay those to me as we go, but I do have a few things to talk about. We always have an open Q&A session toward the end, and set a timer here. We always forget to stop. This thing would go on indefinitely if we didn't stop it.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
You suck. Set timer for 35 minutes.
I meant to ask you,
Okay, 35 minutes and counting.
All right.
that app you're using, I'm surprised it's not a male's voice.
That's all I have.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's get into the good stuff. So it is Friday, but it's a very special Friday because today we released our Woodworkers Fighting Cancer charity video. And this year we're building a castle bookcase. If you haven't seen it already, it's on our website. It's on YouTube, of course. Great little build, all plywood, super simple to construct. And if you make one, we will donate $1 on your behalf. You just have to send us a picture. But all the details for this stuff you could find at woodworkersfightingcancer.com or on the post for that project. So definitely check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. What are we aiming for? 15,000 again?
15,000 again, hopefully. I was conservative because the move, honestly, I can't believe we got it launched because of all the moving and all that stuff.
Well, hey, you know what? We got it launched, but we don't know what's going to happen after this. Like, what did we sacrifice to get that launched?
Yeah.
Like, not getting our house packed in time? That's a possibility at this point. It's going to be rough. We're kind of going a little bit crazy right now, so. But it's worth it, right?
Yeah.
Total, and this is the number that blows my mind every year when we add it all up and say, since 2010, we've been able to do this. $80,000 so far. So this year, if we hit our goal, we're going to be pushing to $100,000.
Yeah.
It's not too bad for like a little woodworking show,
Not too bad.
But you guys are awesome, and I think the way we've constructed it puts a lot of the emphasis on corporate sponsors to bring in the big bucks. And that's the way to do it, right?
Our auctions are great this year. Have
yeah.
whole bunch of new companies joining this year, and you can find all the auctions over at the Wood Whisperer or the Woodworkers Fighting Cancer .com website. So they go live tomorrow, and they will run all month.
The auctions are fantastic. Those are great. Check them out. And if you're going into the auction thinking you're going to get a good deal, that's not the right mindset.
No.
People will outbid you. The idea of the auctions is to raise money for charity, but also to get something you wanted anyway. So you'll probably actually wind up paying a little bit above retail for that item. That happens every year. So just be prepared for that, but don't be dissuaded because it's for a good cause.
The Jesse Reese Foundation, which is an amazing organization, and we're really happy to support them this year.
Yeah. And, technical problems people are having, there's too many variables once the video leaves me that I can't control. Thankfully, people in the chat room are kind of trying to help everybody with their technical issues. So I appreciate that, folks. Hey, and if anyone asks about the move, can somebody just put into the chat room my article that I wrote recently? Why are you guys moving? So that we don't have to answer it every Friday.
I still can't find this video. I don't know.
Which one? Okay.
Oh,
for the chat?
Yeah, it doesn't show up.
I don't know.
I'm just going to go on Facebook. So
you'll figure it out.
No, I won't figure it out.
Well, you have a browser right in front of you, huh? Just open up the browser window and go to my YouTube page.
Try to keep that.
I got to teach her everything over here. I don't know. How's this partnership supposed to work if you're not technically savvy?
I'm seeing this.
Well, stop looking at that. Okay, let's get to it. So, big news. Inventory reduction sale continues this week. Last week was a huge success. Apparently, people like expensive workbenches. And I mean expensive in terms of like lots of wood and expensive hardware. But yeah, the turnout for that was awesome. A lot of people picked up the split top Rubo when it was 40% off. So this week we are moving to another project that has never been discounted. Never ever. And that is the, I almost said the split top Rubo. That's the Sculpted Rocker. And take a look over here. I've got a special guest. I have a special guest. Let's turn the camera and see our special guest. Oh, look at that. There he is. My chair is a he, by the way, for no particular reason. I find walnut to be sort of a masculine wood. I think cherry is maybe a little more feminine. But this is my Sculpted Rocker. And I say my because I built it, not because I designed it. It is a Maloof-inspired design that has gone through the filter of Charles Brock. And Brock has made countless chairs and did his best to interpret the Maloof design and then sort of branch off a little bit on his own with design changes here and there. And then this is our version of that. And it's a great build. It is one of the most challenging builds, but also one of the most fun. If you're really scared, of going outside of square shapes and straight surfaces, this is a project that's going to beat you into submission and tell you that there's nothing to fear. The great thing about curves is they're very forgiving. So if things aren't perfectly symmetrical, if these curves aren't absolutely the same on both sides, the eye is very forgiving when it comes to curved surfaces. So you will learn a lot in this project. Even if you never build it, this is a great learning project just to watch and see how this kind of thing can go together. There's so many different parts to put this thing together. Probably my favorite series we've ever done in the Guild.
Really?
Even more so than the workbench. This is my, as the French would say, pièce de résistance. That's French via New Jersey.
And it's chair building. You always say chair building is really hard.
Chair building. It's one of the hardest parts of furniture making. I would say chairs are the most difficult.
Yeah.
So really, really nice design. Lots of power sculpting, hand sculpting. You're going to love it. It's 40% off. Head to the woodwhispererguild.com right now. And not only is the chair 40% off, but the paper plans are 40% off.
That chair you are not selling for 40% off.
So 2 words of warning. I'm not selling this chair. You'd be surprised how many people thought I was selling workbenches. And they thought that the workbench was an incredible, the split top Rubo, an incredible deal at $66.
Could you ship that to Dubai?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, you probably can't buy the bench crafted handle for $66. Yeah, someone did ask what the shipping fee is to Dubai. I said $10,000. So this is not for sale, but you could build your own with our plans. Other thing is, unlike most of our Guild projects, this one has paper plans and templates. That's a restriction based on our agreement with Charles Brock, and I can only provide the paper plans. There are no digital plans. So you could buy the videos without the paper plans, or you could buy them with the paper plans and get them at a discounted rate, and they are also 40% off. So I don't know if we're ever going to do this again with the chair build, because that's
I'm not planning on moving again after this.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Once our inventory is reduced,
yeah.
You know, what are you going to do? So there it is. There's the Sculpted Rocker. Soak it all in.
Yeah.
I like to sit in that chair and think. It's my second thinking chair. You guys know what my first thinking chair is, right?
The toilet.
Ding, ding. All right, let's go down to the workbench here. I want to show you some cool stuff. So I'm in the process of working on the grandfather clock. Here's a quick little update. Now I've got some pieces milled up here, and I want to talk a little bit about quarter sawn white oak. Sorry, had to make an iris adjustment. These are about to get their joinery, right? So that's where we're at now. Everything's milled nice and square, length, width, everything's cut. But one of the cool things, and I'm not really like a huge oak fan, but I like quarter sawn white oak. Now, let's go back to basics here. What's quarter sawn? If you look at the end grain of a board, you can tell a lot about how it was cut from the log. And this should be very obvious to you, this quarter sawn pattern, that the grain is sort of running perpendicular to the face, right? Okay, that is quarter sawn. Now flat sawn, which is usually what most of our boards come as, will show the grain running across the board this way, the opposite of what you see here. Now quarter sawn boards generally are more stable. They're also more expensive, right? So you have expansion as it goes across the width, which is normally what we're concerned about, really isn't as great with quarter sawn material. Okay, so that makes the board a little bit more stable. And because it's less efficient to cut it from the log, these pieces tend to be a little more expensive when you purchase them. The cool thing, though, is when you take white oak and some other species of wood. You son of a monkey. Hold on.
That scared me.
Every time that happens, I have to remind people this is an actual shop and not a studio. You guys like that? You're welcome. Maybe it's time for another ocarina solo to destroy people's eardrums. Okay, so when you quarter saw this quarter sawn white oak, what you get is this amazing Reflex pattern. Now, it depends on the board. Sometimes it's better than other boards, and I'll show you some differences here in a minute. But what I want you to see is what they call the Medullary Reflex pattern. You see these sort of lighter white areas here? They're referred to as Medullary Reflex, and these are essentially the way the tree itself is transporting nutrients and liquid from the center of the tree to the periphery. So almost think of it as veins. Right? So as you have your various layers of the tree and sort of branching out this way, you have to have not only nutrients and fluid going vertically through the tree, but also across the fibers. So that's what these are. It's almost like veins. So if you want to feel bad about it, think of it like, you know, this would be like someone cutting your arm and having an exposed vein. Isn't that exciting? But the cool thing is it looks awesome, and that's really all that counts. So you have to check your boards. Sometimes they're a little better than others. For instance, here's one that does not really have excellent patterning. Is my camera moving down? It is, slowly but surely. I'm wondering why everything's like not lining up anymore. Stupid camera. It's live, baby.
It's falling asleep.
It is. It's like, man, this is boring. This is boring, Spagnolo. I'm going to take a nap. So yeah, here's one that doesn't have as crazy of a pattern. And it still looks nice. You know, the straight grain is great. That's another thing quarter sawing will do, is it'll make your grain pretty much dead straight and consistent across the length. But we don't have a lot of those Reflex. In fact, the ones we do have are little teeny tiny ones, right? So not too spectacular. That's why this board is labeled extra, because I'll be using that later on to maybe practice some joinery or do some setups. So this is the kind of board I'm really looking to incorporate into my work, because once this has finish applied to it, these Reflex really just kind of pop out and stand out, and they reflect the light differently than the rest of the wood, so it tends to be just absolutely stunning.
So you decided against the fuming. I really loved when you fumed Chris's projects, but
I got some fumes over here if you want to stand next to me. Might not be
not
the ones
those
you're
kind of
thinking
fumes. Potty humor. It's-
What?
If you're new to the show, welcome.
Yes, I have the humor of a toddler.
Yeah.
And we wonder why we constantly get reports about our son. You know, Mateo's using more and more potty words these days, and he's teaching other people how to say doo-doo, and I farted in your
Bye.
face. Yeah. I guess that's the thing. These things are hilarious to me, but then in the real world, you
And here I
realize,
am, like, stop it.
Yeah, you realize your son is farting in people's faces.
No,
Probably
he's
not,
not
a great
doing
thing.
that. He will say he wants to do that.
Well, still, it's all
Anyway,
bad.
Yeah. So yeah.
good times.
So I guess you not answering my question means you're not going to.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was your question?
I was asking if you're doing the ammonia fuming.
The ammonia fuming, I really do want to do it. I'm going to have to see if I could find the material. Now, if you're going to, here's another thing. Let's take a step back. I don't want to assume people know what this is. There are certain woods that you can stain chemically. Now, I did a video on that using baking soda on some woods, and it causes, I guess it's the tannins in the wood to change color, and it's a chemical reaction. You're not putting dye on the surface, you're actually changing the chemistry on the surface, which is a really cool technique. Now, one of the ways you could do that is with ammonia fumes. Now, you can't just use over-the-counter sort of household ammonia. It's not strong enough. You need aqua ammonia. Don't know what the exact percentage is. I think it's like 15, 16, don't quote me on that. I haven't looked at it in a long time. But it's a very high percentage ammonia, and that is like a heavy-duty cleaner. I think it's used in the blueprinting industry. Now, you know, the last time I got this stuff was like,
in California.
yeah, it was like 12 years ago, so I haven't dealt with it in a long time. I don't know how available it is. But This stuff will knock you on your butt. So you have to be very careful. You have to have ammonia filtering respirator on. You've got to have not just eye protection, but goggles that seal around your eyes. Because as soon as that ammonia gas hits your eyes, it essentially turns into acid inside your eyes, which is...
Okay, maybe we won't do that.
No. This is going to be good. I'll show Mateo how to do it. So the idea is you build a tent around your project, and you could put your boards in there, or you could put the finished product like in there. It's a little harder with the finished product, but you do what you got to do. Plastic over top of it. Usually I take 2x4s and sort of wrap them around the base and try to seal it up, and then you put a few trays of this ammonia inside there. Put it in, close it, seal it up, and run away. And the idea is, over the course of a few hours, and you have to experiment with it, it will turn from a sort of grayish brown to a medium brown to a really crazy dark chocolate brown. And you have to be careful, because if it goes too far, it does literally just look like it's been smoked, you know? So it depends on what look you're going for. So it's a fun process, and Nicole's right. I mean, it's awesome to see, and it makes a really, really awesome looking piece of furniture. It's just, you gotta find the right materials to do it, and you gotta be prepared for everything involved.
Right.
So,
It's complicated.
yeah, it is complicated. Someone says I should distill my own. That's a good point.
While you're
I'll just use my meth cooking setup to
so
distill it.
stop. While you're taking your drink, your mom just texted me and
Oh boy,
said,
I'm in trouble.
"No, you're not in trouble. We need to mention that if anyone orders like the pre-order items, so like the WFC coin, the collectible coin,
Or the t-shirt.
or the 10-year anniversary shirt, and you order it with other things, your order will be basically on hold until the pre-order stuff comes in. So if you want to get other things, order it separately from the pre-order items.
Oh, I see. So don't bunch your stuff
Yeah.
together, order them separately?
Right.
Well, okay.
Or if you're okay waiting,
Yeah.
which the shirts are due to come in
Doo-doo.
to come in pretty soon, I think.
Okay. That's
Probably
good. It's
this-
all
this
coming in
week.
soon. The
Yeah.
wait isn't going to be too
It's not
much
gonna be-
no matter what you do. So, hey, Mom, stay off the show. Leave us alone over here. She wants us to Skype her in. This just in from Mom. I'm just teasing Mama. Okay. What else did I want to do? Oh, so Mike in the Guild Facebook group asked a question about my move, my upcoming move. And I am selling some tools. Now, I haven't really gone public other than to the Guild for this. I wanted to give the Guild first crack at some of these things, but I am selling some of my tools. Mike wanted me to talk a little bit about why, and I'm happy to do that. So with this move requires the movement of very large tools, as you guys can imagine. And the more stuff I have to move, the more expensive it's going to be to move it. The other thing is, once I get there, I have a garage that needs to be converted into a shop space. And it's a lot harder to do that when you have like as many tools as I have here bunched into this space. So if I wanted to do something with the flooring, anything with the walls, electricity, all that stuff, it's just going to be a lot more work for me to do with a bunch of stuff sitting around. The other thing is, again, the cost, and I may have talked about this last week, or maybe it was on Wood Talk, but the cost of moving some of this stuff actually does make you think that in some cases it may be more cost efficient to sell a tool and rebuy it there. So the loss that you're taking on that tool does not even come close to what it costs to move that tool. Keep in mind here, one of the reasons this is so expensive for us is we have to move the stuff, have it put into storage, then have it taken out of storage and moved to Colorado, right? It's not as easy as simply packing it, moving it, and unpacking. So that's why I'm going through this thought process. The third reason is because, of course, Powermatic is one of our sponsors, and one of the goals when you're working with a sponsor is to show off their tools in the best light possible. And one of the ways you do that is to have some of the most recent stuff that they have, so, this is how advertising works. And so some of the tools that I have are actually older versions. So this is a good opportunity and a good excuse, I suppose, for me to also, it's really a lateral move, but get to tooling that's a little bit more current with the current offerings that Powermatic has.
Well, it also helps when someone will ask you, hey, have you
What do you
worked
think of the
with-"
new
Yeah.
PM 2000?
Right.
What do you think of the new PM 1800 bandsaw or 1500? I don't know. I haven't had any hands-on time. I can't tell you about that. So it allows me to be a little bit more of a spokesperson for the brand. To be able to talk about it with some information behind me. So that's what's happening. So I actually am selling the flaming table saw. What? I am selling my big
People are
bandsaw.
really sad about this.
I know. you know what? But I'm ready. I'm ready to cut it loose. Here's the thing. If you're not familiar, that flame paint job on that table saw was made by PM Customs, the Woodworks store in Ohio. They were running this sort of side business thing with Powermatic where they would get the saws like right off the boat, straight from Taiwan with no paint, maybe just primed, and they would actually give them custom paint jobs, and you could get them in like team colors. People would get sports team colors on there, and they would paint the rails, and the online little thing you could do with like putting swatches of paint on it, you could make it anything you want. Instead of the, what do you call it, not MDF, but like the particle board extension wings out to the side, they actually would have steel extension wings. And instead of the little spindly legs that most table saws have to support those, because these things were heavier, they actually took the, I think
the
cast
lathe.
iron legs?
Yeah, the
lathe leg,
yeah.
like that they use on their lathes, they use that to support the outfeed side. So what this equates to is a awesome saw, but it also means an extremely heavy saw that I've seen. If you go back and look at some of my moving videos, I've seen the movers almost tip that thing over because it was that difficult to manage. So yeah, that was fun. But anyway, so it's these PM Custom things.
You can't
What
get 'em
a
anymore.
cool idea, but a terrible business. Like I don't think that they were able to make it work.
No.
Because it was only around. I would less than a year if I would
I
have
think
to.
so. There were only a few
hazard a guess.
made.
So for the few people that got them, it was awesome, but it just wasn't a model, I think, that was practical. So that's why the saw has a flame paint job on it. I will be taking my custom built for the Wood Whisperer plaque off of the front of it, though.
Unless you get someone that really, really wants it.
I guess, but that'd be weird, right?
I don't know.
Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. You know what? If anyone is really interested who is, not in the guild, if you're interested in any of the stuff that we might have for sale,
We're not shipping, by the way.
we're not shipping anything. It's all local pickup. So if you can't drive here to pick it up yourself, then we can't sell it to you. Nicole, do you want them to just email
Yeah.
you at the marketing address?
Yeah, or Nicole@thewoodwhisperer.com.
Okay, so email Nicole@thewoodwhisperer.com. She'll send you the link to the spreadsheet that we have that shows what's available and which ones we're taking backup offers, as well as the prices on the stuff. I've got some Festool stuff that's going. There's quite a few things up for sale. I've got that big exhaust fan that I installed in the back of the shop. That's no longer there. Here, check this out. Talk about easy come,
You can
easy
see
go.
it right over there.
Look at the back. You see, right over there, that used to be where that fan was. Bye-bye. All gone. Repaired, repainted. It's like it was never there. So let's do a little Q&A. Let's get comfortable. Let's take our clothes off and get to know each
Well,
other.
I don't know about that. I got a question from Jason Aldair. I recently joined the guild. If I do consulting time with you, will you give me information about going full time? That consulting time can be anything you want to talk
Yeah,
about.
consultation time is whatever you want it to be. We could talk about your favorite cartoons if you want to. But when it comes to going full time, I hope you read my article on why I don't give business advice, because I wasn't very good at it. So I have ideas, I have thoughts on going pro and what it's like to build furniture full time. But notice what I'm doing for a living now. I'm not selling furniture for a living. I'm actually teaching for a living. It's a very different thing. So just know what you're getting into. I don't want you to spend money on something and walk away disappointed because Mark doesn't know anything about running a woodworking business. I do know some things and I have ideas, but I'm also going to be the first to tell you that it's an incredibly difficult way to go, and I don't have all the answers, but I might be able to give you some suggestions that certainly may help. But there's a very strong caveat
Yeah.
there.
Just go to thewoodwhisper.com or just woodwhisper.com and then search for business, and you'll find all of the articles over time.
Yeah, and I
that
do
Mark
actually have
has-
quite a few. As much as I say I don't offer business advice,
You talk
I have like
about it.
20 business-related articles just because it's something that is on my mind.
Yeah.
Someone wants to know my favorite movie. Who was it? Frank. Hey, how's it going, Frank? What's my favorite movie? I would have to say my favorite movies, and it might more be like a series of movies because of my love for the books, and that would be Lord of the Rings. And it's not even a movie that I watch all the time. Like, the movies that get the most watch time are Christmas movies.
Yeah.
I will watch Christmas Vacation, Santa Claus. What are some of my other favorites? Elf. Like
Elf.
any Christmas movie, I will watch the crap out of.
Christmas Story.
I will watch it into submission. But, my favorite movies that are more like an experience, those I only watch once in a while, because when do I have, especially for like Lord of the Rings extended editions, when do I have, 4 hours to sit down and watch a movie anymore? But just because I love Lord of the Rings, the entire trilogy and The Hobbit, my love for the movies is there too.
Joel wants to know, what Festool sander do you have?
I have all of them, actually. That really sounded horrible to say it that way.
Yes, you suck.
I have the Rotexes, I've got the ETS sanders, and I feel like I say this all the time too. If you're going to buy one sander, if you're doing a lot of like reclaimed work and you need to rough sand material to just kind of expose it, clean it up a little bit, the Rotex is your all-in-one solution. If you're doing work that's more similar to what I do, where most of my material is coming almost like this, just needs a little planing and jointing and it's ready to roll, and you're doing mostly finish prep sanding, then I find the ETS sanders to be a much better option. They're lighter, better balanced, easier to use, but they're just not as versatile as the Rotex. So for me, if 99% of what I do is finish sanding, why would I want a big, unruly, sort of hard to control Rotex? But if I'm doing more rustic work, the Rotex might be the solution. Someone wants to know, I always see these questions, I don't remember who says it.
Am I monitoring this, or are you?
Well, we both are, but when I see a question I want to answer it.
Okay.
Leave me alone, Nicole. You're so mean to me sometimes. We're going to get comments about how mean
yeah.
you are to me.
Yeah.
And how you need to respect me better. Ruben Villanueva says, do I have any woodworking tattoos? Not overtly. This tattoo is a landscape, and it involves a craftsperson doing work on a building in a sort of, I guess it's more or less like a Japanese landscape. So there's a building and background and pillars and all kinds of crazy stuff up here. So that's I didn't want to be too on the nose with woodworking,
You have
like
the tree.
a hand plane. Yeah, but again, that's all my stuff is like tangential.
Yeah.
It's not exactly on the nose woodworking related. I got my big. This one never gets seen on the show. I'll show this one. That's my big banyan tree.
I love that one.
I got that one when we were in Hawaii, in Maui. Great tattoo shop, and on my left arm, it's going to be like probably just a series of crap on top of crap. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to what's happening with the left arm. The right arm is a little bit more of an executed vision.
Aaron wants to know, can you give me some basic tips on lacquers? I know nothing and want to try. Aaron,
Hold that. I like David's comment. David Bishop says, it's getting distracting watching the wife whip her beautiful long hair around. Stop whipping your hair,
Sorry,
Nicole.
I didn't realize I was still on camera.
Yeah, here's a funny story. When Nicole and I first met, she actually moved into my apartment as a roommate. That's how we met. And when she first came out, I think it was Easter, right?
I don't.
So we
I
were
don't
dating.
remember.
We were just roommates at the time, but I totally had a crush on her. So we were going out to Lake Havasu to my mom's for Easter, and we were just like sitting on the floor. Well, I can't put that on. It's the fan's too loud.
I know. I'm just saying.
That's why she's pushing her hair around, because it's so hot in here. Keep your clothes on, Nicole. Come on. It's a family show. So we're at my mom's house watching some TV, and we were kind of like laying on the floor, but not snuggled. But I was a few feet behind her, laying on a pillow. And I have this thing for hair. I'm not going to call it a fetish, but I love hair. I love playing with hair. It's something I've done since I was a baby. I used to fall asleep with my brother, and he had longer hair.
It's funny because Mateo curls his own hair.
Yeah, I think it's genetic. It's definitely genetic. But I would play with my brother's hair, and it would just soothe me to sleep. It's a weird thing. I don't know. So for me, any woman that I would be with, or especially one that I would marry, has to have, nice playable hair. It's just a thing. So and my mom knows this about me. So when she met her, she knew I had a crush on her. And we're sitting there watching TV, and Nicole does the hair flipping thing, and I'm behind her, and she goes, woof. And I get this like whiff of delicious smelling hair in my face and just like tickling my face, and my mom's looking at me laughing because she knows it's like torture for me, because it would not have been appropriate for me to just reach out and start playing with her hair. She'd be like, what's going on here? So yeah, that's the story of Nicole's hair. I love her hair. Yeah, David, you did derail the show. This is the part where having a husband and wife team on the show just kind of, sends it off the rails a little bit. What was the question?
About lacquers, basic tips, Aaron.
Basic tips about using lacquer, spraying lacquer?
He says, can you give some basic tips on lacquers?
Okay, here's some basic tips. Spray it. Don't say it. If you are applying lacquer, I find one of the absolute best ways to apply it is by spray. Now, there are brushing lacquers out there, but it's a fast-drying finish, and one of the joys of that is the fact that if you spray it, it sort of levels out and dries very quickly. So get into HVLP, get a small turbine or something and start spraying. Lacquer's very forgiving because it melts into itself. So you put a layer down, when you're on coat number 2, it reactivates coat number 1, and it sort of becomes one big coat. Unlike a polyurethane, which just kind of layers, think of layers of plastic wrap on top of one another, that's polyurethane. And those layers don't combine, they just adhere to one another. Lacquer melts into itself. So in the end, after 10 coats, you just have one big thick layer, which is advantageous because if you have mistakes, you could sort of, just get rid of those mistakes with your next coat.
Is that what you put on the bench in the shower?
No, that's Epiphanes.
Oh, Epiphanes.
That's more of the plastic wrap
Gotcha.
situation. So as you layer this stuff on there, you could sand between coats, continue to layer it on, and then toward the end, I like to dilute it pretty heavily. And even for the final coat, I'll go just completely lacquer thinner because the lacquer thinner will, again, reactivate the material. So if you have a lot of overspray and the surface is really rough, if you take lacquer thinner for your last step and just give it a nice drenching, don't make it drip, but just spray it to make a nice complete wet surface, it'll reactivate it. Sorry, drinking coffee, it's making me burp. It'll reactivate the surface and dry very quickly because it's just lacquer thinner. And that actually leaves you with a pretty darn good finish right off the gun.
Do you have a video on this?
Maybe. I don't know. I repeat myself like every 3 days.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Is that lacquer?
This is a lacquer finish, so these boxes that actually, yes, okay. This was shown in the video. This is like a couple weeks ago. We released these little keepsake box videos. This was done exactly that way, and there has been no post-processing done on this thing. So I hit it with a lacquer thinner and let it dry, and you can see that surface. It's not perfect, not absolutely perfect. But if you're just doing little boxes and you're batching them out, that's good enough. And especially if you have a piece of furniture with a lot of spindles, right? You don't want to be in there like buffing in between the spindles to get rid of all of the grit and stuff that might be on the surface. So hit it with that lacquer thinner and suddenly everything is just smooth and magical.
Brian wants to know, do you put any oil or other finish beneath lacquers when using them? Did you already say that?
No. Generally speaking, no, I don't put anything under the lacquer. You can, but you just have to decide what you're looking for out of the wood. If you don't find that the lacquer itself is bringing enough color, you may want to do that. For instance, with this maple and babinga, I knew the lacquer would look tremendous on the babinga. It needs no help, so I didn't need to do anything there. This maple, well, I didn't want the maple to yellow that much. And if you put an oil-based finish on maple, it does yellow. It tends to get to, I find it to be a pretty unattractive yellow color. So I don't want that to happen any more than it has to. So I just went with the lacquer, which keeps it a little bit more along the lighter color that I think looks better. Okay, but if I hit that with maybe boiled linseed oil or even, like a wiping varnish and then went with my lacquer on top of that, it probably would give it a little bit more of a yellowing sort of effect over time.
Raphael wants to know, what bandsaw would you recommend for an intermediate woodworker? I'm stepping up from a Harbor Freight tabletop bandsaw.
Okay. Bandsaws, this was actually just a topic this morning in the guild group about what makes the most sense for a bandsaw. Now, whether you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced is almost besides the point. It's a question of budget and what you want to build. For me personally, I like having a larger bandsaw. And the reason is because larger format bandsaws tend to have better adjustment mechanisms on there, better blade guides. They could take larger blades, and they tend to be a little bit better built. And for instance, like the 14-inch, the classic 14-inch bandsaw that everybody knows, Jet makes it, Powermatic makes it, Delta makes it, Grizzly has them. They all kind of look like they fell off of the same factory floor, right? All of those I find to be pretty difficult to adjust properly. Even when I'm moving the guides up and down, they're not necessarily tracking as true as I'd like them to. So that the setting up here might push against the bearing, while the setting down here is perfectly centered, right? So it's that sort of thing that the larger format saws solve with sort of that rack and pinion adjustment mechanism. It's just a much more stable type of saw. So my recommendation, if someone is getting into the bandsaws, if you're trying to be budget conscious, but want something that's going to last a long time and make you very happy, I would actually avoid the 14-inch size range. unless you go to some of these newer 14-inch ones. I think Laguna has one, maybe even Rikon. I don't know all the brands out there
Well,
and
doesn't
what
Jet
they currently
have-
offer. Jet has a 14-inch, but it is this older style. So, you know what though? Jet did come up with some new tools.
They did. They just
So
announced some new bandsaws.
You
I
might be
believe.
right. Jet may have one. Bottom line is, if it has that rounded looking top, that's kind of the old format. Most of the ones that are sort of a newer style that I tend to like a little more are a little more square. That's okay. It's not scientific, but that's just a general rule of thumb. But they tend to be a little bit better built. They have better adjustment mechanisms. So if you're going to go 14, try to get one of those, all right? And if you have a larger budget, then maybe step up to a 15, 16, 18-inch
Yeah,
saw.
they just announced, Jet announced a 15, 18, and 20-inch
There you go.
bandsaw.
So, well, yeah, like the PM 1500 is the Powermatic version of that, of the Jet 15-inch, right? Larger fence on it as well. The fence adjustment system is going to be much better. So that's my recommendation. Especially if you're already upgrading from something, you may as well give yourself a good, solid upgrade. I think if you just go with the traditional, what we know of as our classic 14-inch bandsaws, it's an upgrade, but I think it might be a slightly frustrating one. That said, watch Alex Snodgrass's setup video, no matter what bandsaw you have, and that's going to give you some good guidance for getting that thing tuned up so it can actually cut really well.
Did you know that we are auctioning a bandsaw away for Woodworkers Fighting Cancer?
What?
Yeah.
Well,
Paramedic gave us a bandsaw.
Yeehaw.
Yeah, the auction goes live tomorrow.
That's excellent. Yeah, big auction.
And a
That's
drill
good.
press, too.
And a drill press?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Let's see. Salt Gix says, I made a walnut maple chessboard. What will highlight the colors better, lacquer or poly? You know what? Either one. But again, remember what I said about poly. Oil-based poly will eventually cause those maple pieces to be a little more yellow, which essentially, timer's done, which essentially decreases the contrast in my mind. So I would be more in favor of a lacquer. I think that's going to really showcase the brightness of the colors a little bit better than an oil-based poly would.
Aiden wants to know, do you have any idea what
Ruben says, the Snodgrass tastes like Snodgrass. Well done. Well played. I like that. I'm sorry. I
I
didn't
have
mean to
a
interrupt
funny,
you.
I'll tell you offline what a
Okay.
Snodgrass is. Any idea what what technique David Marks used on his sculpted workbench legs? I'm going to say you probably don't. You should probably ask David.
Yeah,
You can ask David.
I'm trying to remember what the bench legs look like. If I'm not mistaken, they have a textured effect, right?
I
Maybe
don't know.
get some confirmation. I'm pretty sure they're sort of textured. My guess is he probably just took a die grinder and went and created that pattern. David's not the type to necessarily sit there with a carving tool, hand carving manual tool to do that. So I'm almost positive it's a textured effect, a dimpled sort of effect that you're talking about. If that's the case, I would just about guarantee a die grinder with maybe like a teardrop burr on it or a oval rounded burr is probably what he used to do that.
Okay.
One more question.
Steve says, do the
'Cause
larger
we got
saws
packing to do.
preclude doing more curved cuts with narrow blades?
Okay, larger saws, generally speaking, can take any blade. They have an upper capacity, but you could still get your 1/4-inch blade on there, no problem. So that's why I have a 2-bandsaw setup in the ideal situation. I may not be able to have that in my next shop, but it's nice because I can keep the smaller saw with the 1/4-inch blade, bigger saw with more of a resawing blade. So for folks who don't know, the wider that blade is, the harder it is to take a turn, right? So you can't do tight curves with a wide blade. So if you only have one bandsaw, you're going to have to switch, but there's no reason a bigger bandsaw can't take a narrower blade. And the instructions will certainly tell you what their size ranges are, but I think any bandsaw should be able to take a 1/4-inch blade. It's usually the upper capacity of the saw that's in question.
Frank wants to know, did another YouTuber steal your content recently? He's referring to your post on Facebook about the copyright claim of the music and
How do you know that's what he's referring to?
Huh?
How do you know that's what he's referring
Because
to?
he asked earlier what you were referring to on your Facebook page.
Okay,
and he-
yeah, because people steal my content all the time.
Yeah.
That's something that just anyone who's on YouTube, if your video gets popular enough, someone at some point will steal it and try to make money from it. thankfully the system is in place where I could flag them and they're taken down immediately. That's really cool. The other side of this is if someone puts a claim on your video, you're pretty much screwed. You're at their mercy until, and I did complain about this on Facebook today, and I complain about it every couple of months, because the charity video that I just posted was flagged, and not by a person, but by a computer. And it flagged 2 songs, which I've legally paid for and have the license and the right to use. So it flagged it, but now I have to wait for some moron on the other end to go and review all of the claims. So meanwhile, within like the first 24 to 48 hours, basically when the video makes its lion's share of ad revenue, I don't get any money for it. And it just doesn't yield anything. It's on hold.
I guess if they're not running ads, you can't.
They don't run ads at all. And if they were running ads, the money would be going to the claimant.
No, I think it goes into a holding pattern.
Oh, that's right. They did change that, right?
They changed it.
So there are no ads right now, though, because I can't even turn them on because it was already flagged.
So watch it right now.
Upload.
We'll have to watch an ad.
So anyway, it's again, my post was basically saying, hey, wake up, people. If you are making YouTube videos and you're looking to make a business out of this, you need to think about other things than YouTube, because YouTube is not your friend. You are the product for YouTube, all right? And you have to be careful about how you structure your business. Now, it's annoying to me, but it isn't gonna make or break my business. It's just kind of a nuisance thing that drives me nuts. But it does make me nervous for people who are quitting their jobs and making videos full time and using YouTube as their primary platform to do that. If they don't have other things going on their websites and other products that they're making outside of YouTube, that's a very scary thing, because at any given time, YouTube can change a rule and suddenly you're screwed.
Like you're not PC enough for ad revenue.
Yeah, and I think that concern is overblown.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that shows you that this
the
is
entry into it, though.
Yeah, this is their playground, not yours, right? So think about it.
I'm going to give you one final question.
Okay, good.
Corey W. wants to know, is it pretty easy to follow along on your Maloof style rocking chair for a beginning to intermediate woodworker?
Great question. I think it is. Now, the techniques and the things used in that video, I give you every bit of instruction I possibly can in the most sensible order possible. So you have the recipe. But like any recipe, I can't control what your hands actually do, right? So you have the ability, beginners have come in, they've made the chair, they've made the workbench, some of my most complex projects. But it's because they also had a bit of an aptitude for it, like they were able to pick up and do it. So if you find that you're able to pick up fairly complex things fairly quickly and you're adventurous, I don't think you'll have any problem with it, but I'm not going to lie and say that it isn't going to be a challenge. It's a more advanced project. But beginners can do advanced projects with the proper guidance, and that's what the Guild is all about.
It is. We've had people join the Guild and have never built anything, and they just follow the steps.
That's right.
And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Dion wants to know, one more question.
All right.
I just wanted to address this. He
I'm
says,
logged in as Wood Talk, by the way.
Are you on Patreon? And then someone says, Wood Talk is on Patreon, and that's right. Patreon.com/Wood Talk, and Wood Talk is our audio show that we do with myself, Matt Cremona, and that other guy. What's his name?
Shannon.
I'm joking. Shannon Rogers. 2 good friends of mine. We have a lot of fun with the audio show. You could support Wood Talk there. I don't have a Patreon for the Wood Whisperer. I don't know. I've thought about it. Would anyone be interested? I can't. I mean, at this point, I'm so maxed out. I wouldn't be able to do
all the
like a lot of extra
rewards
rewards and bonuses and stuff just because I don't have enough bandwidth to do it right now. But we could do stickers or a T-shirt level. Stuff like that. If you guys are interested, let me know if you think you're interested, or if you'd like me to do some kind of a Patreon. I will. Aaron says Wood Talk is the best, except Shannon. I like you, Aaron.
Well, I think we've gone over our time.
You can do it. Yeah, we have.
And was there anything else?
Oh, Cremona's here, stinking up the chat room again.
So
Shouldn't you be working, Matt? Come on.
Beep. Can I
Beep.
talk? Beep.
Okay. All right.
So
we
sale
have,
ends on Sunday.
That's right. Sale ends on Sunday on the Maloof inspired rocker project. So get on it. Man, we've got a crazy weekend. I still have to get this clock built, and I have pods sitting out in the driveway that are completely empty, waiting for us to start putting crap in them. I've got tools to sell. We've got a charity drive to run. It's going to be a busy time for us.
We got a guild meeting.
Oh, that's right. We're going to have a little live meetup, huh?
Yeah.
Yikes.
I don't know
So if I make it through this experience without going completely
Gray.
gray, it'll be a friggin' miracle. I don't know how we're going to do it.
We will do it.
We'll figure
pull
it out.
together and make it happen.
All right. Well, thank you, my friends. Gracias, amigos. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Adios. Why am I going Spanish all of a sudden? It's just my thing.
Stop broadcasting.